We got my guy, Zach Harper, the NBA staff writer for The Athletic, joining the Rich Eisen Show. Zach, I would say that NBA All-Star Weekend is sort of the crown jewel of the NBA season outside of the NBA Finals. But what's the biggest storyline going into this year's NBA All-Star Weekend in Utah?
I think it's as simple as what's going to happen this year, right? Like that sounds very broad, but Kevin Durant went to the Suns.
Right.
The Nuggets are really good. The Celtics and the Bucks look like the best teams in basketball. Here come the Sixers. You never know what you can get from the Miami Heat. The Warriors could always get it together. Like most years, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on like a couple of possibilities that'll happen. There's like 30 possibilities of what could happen right now, and I'm baffled on all of them.
You know, Zach, you're talking to a guy who played in the National Football League, and so, here I am. I'm in Phoenix. Super Bowl 57 is coming up, and all of a sudden, everyone got these alerts in Phoenix on Wednesday night, late night in Phoenix, and next thing you know, it's Kevin Durant to the Suns. And first of all, people in Phoenix are excited, but I'm saying, what has the NBA come to? But then even more so, I'll take it a step further, Zach. Can the NBA push the trade deadline past the Super Bowl now? Because I felt the news was getting lost outside of the NBA circles because we're talking about a Super Bowl. We should be talking about this all week long. Can the NBA go back to the old trade deadline that happened after the NBA All-Star Weekend, which was always the controversial topic of who's getting traded after the weekend?
Well, here's the problem. There are a couple of problems here. One, I get it. NFL is king. You guys are creeping in way too far into February.
All right.
Like, way too far. Like, this used to be a January thing. Like, end of January. There were years where my birthday was at the end of January, had a Super Bowl day and everything. Like, now it's just like we might as well be at Valentine's Day for the Super Bowl. They may as well be trying to ruin every single relationship out there with this. So I think the NFL needs to pump the brakes a little bit here. But you can also blame Vlade Divac. Vlade traded DeMarcus Cousins to the Pelicans the night of the All-Star game years ago, and the NBA said, all right, no more of that ever again. We're moving it up. I do like that it's before the All-Star break because it gets all of that worry out of there, and I think it creates some awkwardness in terms of guys who just got traded from a certain player's team, and now they're going to play in the All-Star game together. I like that drama of it. But, yeah, like the timing of the season for the NBA just in general seems off.
Yeah, it's been really off. But now, like you mentioned so many teams now that have upgraded or have been able to add a piece that allows them to go out and possibly compete for an NBA title, Zach. So for right now, if you look at the way that I think now, are they the favorites now in the West? Because when you do add a Kevin Durant to a Chris Paul, to a Devin Booker, to a DeAndre Ayton, to a bunch of guys with some good role players, are they not the best team in the West right now, the Phoenix Suns?
I think the thing that you have to say with trying to figure that out is the four least satisfying words of the NBA. It's if they are healthy. Right? Like if they are healthy, like I don't know how you mess with them. Like they were already a dominant team in the regular season, at least the last couple of years, with Devin Booker, with Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges. It kind of reminds – it's not quite the same as this because the Warriors were at a different level. But when you looked at the Warriors in 2016 and they lost to the Cavs, right, that spectacular failing, and you started going, all right, well, now what does this do? Well, you replace Harrison Barnes with Kevin Durant, right? Like that's just a ridiculous upgrade. No offense to Harrison Barnes, but you start thinking about that team with Kevin Durant in there instead, and now you think, all right, Mikal Bridges is super good, really good player. Replace him with Kevin Durant. What does that look like? I mean, that looks like a team that nobody can stop. Yeah, their rotation is going to be a little short. Yeah, they don't have great bulk and size, so that's going to be an issue against someone like Nikola Jokic. But that team is so unbelievably skilled just from Durant and Booker and everyone on top of that they can fill in that rotation with. Like, if they're healthy, I don't see how you beat them.
He's NBA staff writer for The Athletic, Zach Harper, joining the Rich Eisen Show. You can also follow him on Twitter at TalkHoops. And make sure I get this right, should the Brooklyn Nets be, is it relegated or delegated? Where should they go? Should they move down? Should they go to the G League? I feel like a couple years ago, it was all about, can Brooklyn win a championship? And they've had Kyrie, and they've had, obviously, Kevin Durant, and here comes Ben Simmons. And now I look there, what are the Brooklyn Nets doing? Like, is there any method to this madness?
There's bad method to the madness. I can tell you that. Like, everything they did was right in terms of you went out there and got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. That's what you're supposed to do. You went out and traded for James Harden. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, there are all these things where they made all these steps along the way in terms of the transaction that made a lot of sense. And even once James Harden didn't want to be there, getting someone like Ben Simmons, in theory, is a great idea for what that team was. The problem is they don't know how to set a culture. Like that. Like, we talk about team culture in sports all the time.
Yeah.
They let KD and Kyrie do whatever they want, and I'm all for player empowerment. I don't think that there's a bad thing with that to a certain level, but you can't let them run every decision of the team from like practices and all this stuff. And it seems like that's what happened. And so there's got to be a certain point where you check that and say, this is how we do things. If you want to fit in, go ahead. They have a chance to do that moving forward, but I don't know how you sell the next superstars on, like, look, it's a great market, it's a great facility, it's a great team concept and everything, but now we're not going to let you have the power that KD and Kyrie had. I don't know a lot of stars that are going to be like, well, wait, so I get less than what they had? No, you go there to have the power, and they've kind of just painted themselves into a terrible corner.
Yeah, it's funny. Remember, I'm still old enough to remember, Zach, that Steve Nash was the coach of the Brooklyn Nets to start the season. And he very quickly was.
That sounds like it was 10 years ago.
Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable, man. Zach Harper joined the Rich Eisen Show. One team that we haven't talked about, the Los Angeles Lakers. They made some moves. They traded away Russell Westbrook. They get back D'Angelo Russell and a couple other players that fit within this, I guess, Lakers of today or right now. How do you forecast, or how do you foresee the Lakers going down a stretch? Everybody's excited about a big win over the New Orleans Pelicans, who are playing on a back-to-back, I believe. Are we supposed to think that the Lakers could be contenders in the West?
I can't believe what I'm about to say.
Oh, no. Let me brace myself. Hold on. Go ahead. Let me brace myself. All right, go ahead.
I'm not certain they can get above the Thunder. Like, okay. I really am not certain. The Thunder are a good defensive team. They've got some good offensive talent. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a superstar in the making. And I realize I'm talking about a team with LeBron and AD and now D'Lo, and I love the Jared Vanderbilt pickup. Like, I don't think people realize how good he is and how instrumental he was to the Timberwolves' success last year, because when he was on the court, they were a good defensive team, and when he was off the court, they were a disaster. And so he can really tie a lot of things together. And I do think they upgraded that roster, but they put themselves in such a hole. They play such bad basketball half the time, and they have good players, at least at the top. They've filled out their rotation to look better, but in terms of like contender, not a chance. Like they don't have that championship identity anymore. They don't have those guys to make the sacrifices and play the defense that needs to be played at that level. Their offense isn't even really that good. Now, that should improve with D'Lo, although it was kind of the on-off numbers with him in Minnesota. Like, they were the exact same offensive team, whether he was on or off.
Right. And
they were horrible defensively with him on. That's going to be different in LA, because I think that they need his skill set more than what Westbrook did. But contenders, no, I'm not certain they're better than the Thunder, which may end up sounding stupid, but the Thunder know how to play.
Well, the Thunder are currently in the playoffs, or the play-in game. That means that the Lakers are currently out of the play-in game if they can't pass the Thunder currently. So that'd be something that we watch as we get down the stretch here after the All-Star break. But Zach, I do want to ask you, because when I think of All-Star games of past, it was truly a big weekend. It was our biggest stars going out playing. And for once, we had a chance to see all of them play together, and it was a great show. But we will have a all-star game without Steph Curry, without Kevin Durant, right? The guys are joking a little bit. We won't have Russell Westbrook. And I know he doesn't have a team, but you mentioned there are some up-and-coming stars. A guy like you mentioned, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You're having a Ja Morant now, who I think is starting to be put on that superstar level as well as a player. Who benefits most in this All-Star weekend? Who is the star that we'll be talking about even more, or who is the biggest headliner for this All-Star weekend?
Well, remember, Giannis hurt his wrist last night.
Correct. I saw that. Yes.
Do we know if he's gonna play? There are a lot of question marks there. I think it will be another celebration of LeBron, and deservedly so. It's still kind of crazy to think that he broke the scoring record,
right?
The all-time scoring record. And I think there should be a massive, massive deal made about that at All-Star Weekend. I think it's someone like like Anthony Edwards. Like he gets in
yes.
as an injury replacement, maybe even someone like De'Aaron Fox. Like I think
Correct.
you get a chance to meet these young guys. And like you said, Ja's a superstar. Like Ja has his own shoe from Nike. Like he's on highlights everywhere. Like Ja's a superstar. Ant has that capability to be one of those star personalities. Like everyone loves him. He's got great quotes. He's a fun guy. He's funny, like legitimately funny, not Dwight Howard funny. Like he's a legitimately funny guy. And I think he's got the game to really show up in something like that and take over. It's just whether or not do veterans still freeze out young guys in All-Star games anymore? I don't know if they do that. I don't know if competitive juices flow that way. But maybe he would be one they freeze out.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, too, that just go out there and just wants to go hoop. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to go play basketball. It doesn't matter. I know LeBron will go out there. He'll come out and play a couple minutes. He'll wave to the crowd. I showed up. I'm here. Take his acknowledgement. But this game is for the younger players, and I get that. But I know we're just missing out on so many big stars. And I mentioned Russell Westbrook a minute ago just because it was a big topic here in Los Angeles, Zach. And currently he's a free agent weighing out his options. I think the Clippers are also a contender in bringing him in. He could go possibly anywhere in the NBA. I think he's a really big piece for a guy who is willing now to come off the bench and give you some solid scoring, but some of that energy that you need coming off the bench in that second unit. What would be the best place for Russell Westbrook to land for this playoff run?
It's a really good question. Like, I don't love the fit with the Clippers. I know all the stuff Paul George said about how they have the spacing to let Russ be Russ. Like, it's 2023. Like, you don't want Russ to be Russ at this point. Like, that's not something that that brings. And I'm not trying to be like crap on him, but like that's just not his game anymore. This isn't the MVP year in 2017. Like, we're way past that. But I do think he can be useful. I think the key is, and it's kind of the conversation we had with Carmelo years ago, like, are you willing to accept a lesser role? He did that with the Lakers. Would he do that everywhere? That's what I think the hang-up is for teams of, he was willing to do this for LeBron. Would he do this for DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine? Would he do this for Kawhi and Paul George? Would he do this for Jimmy Butler? Like, those are the things where I just don't know what the answer to that question is. I don't like to sit on the Clippers, although that seems to be the likeliest scenario. I think Chicago's kind of dead in the water at this point. Like, they look really bad, really listless most nights. He could inject some real adrenaline into what they do and maybe give them some life. But also, I know we're not supposed to use the T word around here. They need a tank. Like, Chicago needs a tank. Like, they got their pick is top 4 protected. It's going to Orlando. Like, this is a team that needs some lottery luck to go get Victor Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson. Like, they don't need to fight for pride here. Like, that's a bad idea.
NBA staff writer for the Athletic, Zach Harper, joining the Rich Eisen Show. Kirk Morrison filling in for Rich. At Talk Hoops is his Twitter handle. You can follow him there as well. Just a couple more minutes because I got a couple more questions for you. Another guy who's now entered the buyout market is a former NBA champion with LeBron James when he was part of the Cleveland Cavaliers, is Kevin Love. And I don't know where Kevin Love is as a player right now. Currently, I know that he could definitely be a good piece or a puzzle piece for an NBA team right now heading into the playoffs. Is there a big market for Kevin Love?
I think there's a good market for him. Like, I think people want to know that he can remain healthy, that he can still shoot the ball, that he can still rebound the ball. He's a great passer in the half court. He's a great outlet passer. He's atrocious defensively, right? He has been for his whole career, but he's pretty unplayable defensively most nights. So, God, this is going to sound like such an insult of the player comp, and I don't mean it to be that way. But years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, the Blazers picked up Enes Kanter, I guess Enes Freedom now.
Right.
And he wasn't great for them, but he put up good numbers, and he ended up starting a bunch of playoff games for them. And it was like a little bit of a talent injection into the lineup that they needed at the time, just a guy to go get numbers and play some big minutes. I think he could have a better version of that wherever he goes, but he's not a star anymore. He's not a full-time player, and he's someone that is, very strategic in how you have to play him, but his skill set's still ridiculous. His IQ is still ridiculous. Like, someone could use him as a sixth man or a seventh man.
Well, I saved this to the last part of the interview because I wanted to keep my fandom inside, but as a Bay Area born and raised guy,
let it out.
I got to let it out now. My Warriors, when Steph does return, what is the outlook for my Warriors? But more importantly, could this be the last dance for that group of Draymond, Clay, and Steph?
It feels like the latter, right? But this couldn't all be because of the punch.
Right.
Right?
No, I think we've moved past that already, Zach.
Yeah. Like Jordan Poole's got to punch him back. Is that going to get them to win on the road?
Yeah,
is that going to get them
seriously.
to play defense now? Like
right.
It's weird to think that this season has gone the way it has. They don't have to go out there and be the best team in the West. I know Steph's missed a bunch of time, and Wiggins missed a bunch of time, and they've had guys in and out of the lineup, but they're just atrocious on the road. Like, they don't play defense at all at a championship level. I think they can turn it around, especially once Steph comes back. It just changes everything. Like, he's the most impactful player in basketball and how he affects both sides of the court and what the teams do in terms of how they even play offense, because they're worried about him getting out and hitting the three in transition, right? Like he really does change everything in that way. But I mean, they have to build up championship tendencies again. That's not something I thought they would have to do at this point in the season. But I mean, if they're going to go on the road in the playoffs and look like this, I mean, they might be lucky to get out of the play-in tournament playing like this, let alone try to defend that title. I think there's a pathway to them getting back and being the Warriors. But it's going to take a lot of people looking in the mirror. And again, I really think Jordan Poole has to punch somebody to just put the balance back in, like create, get balance in the universe, whatever that is. Like, he's going to have to. They should make him punch Draymond Green.
Zach, this is my saving grace. Can someone beat them 4 out of 7 tries? That's all I keep saying in my head. Is there a team out there that can beat them 4 out of 7 tries?
It's Steph, right?
Right. Like,
I really think Steph's underappreciated, and I know he's a major superstar. Like, I don't think people realize just how legitimate. I mean, Isaiah Thomas come out here and saying he wouldn't get 18 a game in the 80s. Are you kidding me? He'd be tried for being a witch or a warlock in the 80s if he played the way he did and got transported into Isaiah and Larry Bird. All of a sudden, they rough him up. Who cares? He'd be shooting from half court. There's nothing anybody could do about it.
Exactly. Hey, Zach, appreciate the time. Enjoy NBA All-Star Weekend, all the stories, and we'll see who wins the dunk contest, right? Is that still exciting? I don't even know. It's like new rules every year. You got 90 seconds to get 2 dunks, and your third dunk has to be your best dunk. And if it's not the best dunk, we'll average the 2. I'm just going off rules. I don't know.
They're really banking on Mac McClung being the Instagram sensation in real life.
Yeah, the G League.
If that doesn't happen, it's going to be a bad one.
That's what the NBA has come to now, bringing in influencers into the NBA dunk contest. I appreciate the time, Zach.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. Anytime.
That's Zach Harper. He's the NBA staff writer for The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter at Talk Hoops.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.